Hello everyone, Michaela here. Welcome to And All the Things, my little series where we each week, a couple times a week like this one on a special Monday, where we get to know people just like you and me who use their gifts to grow, change, and serve. This week's guest is no exception. She is an absolute pillar in my life of things that I hold close and that I always try to put my energy and effort into. And she joined, and we're going to talk today about some of that. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. You are having an excellent hair day.
Thank you.
It's lovely. It's lovely. So if you were here a few minutes ago, you might have noticed that we hopped on to try to do something a little different and do a little, you know, audio, video, technical check. And we found out it didn't work. So really, Christy, let's start the conversation by talking about perspective, right?
Sure.
Because we're laughing. We could be here and like stressing and pulling our hair out, and please don't pull your pretty hair out, over the obstacles that we face, right? We can turn it into sour lemons, or we can just say, how do we learn from it? How do we grow? And I appreciate you being in that part with me because you know, it takes two people to tango in a way that feels good.
Yes.
And you made that really easy. So thanks.
Yes, anytime.
So anyway, I feel like every episode starts with a little bit about some of the complications of getting into Instagram Live. So we'll deal with that on another troubleshooting day. But you are here today because, like the rest of my guests, I find greatness in you. I pull it out of you, steal it and take it as my own, and try to put it back out to the world. So today we're just going to talk about you and all the things. So what's on your mind today that's got you feeling good?
Well, you mentioned perspective, and that's the name of the game. As throws things about family, about work, about relationships, whatever the perspective that you choose really is what keeps me sane because I choose joy.
Well, thank you for that. And maybe that's why we're such good friends, long standing. And I have to give you a lot of credit for places in my life where I didn't previously see joy. And whether it was just adding perspective or adding insights, you've been instrumental in helping to shift my compass back to a true north that reflects what's important to me. So I want to tell the guests a quick story, and I haven't mentioned this one to you. But this is the magic of Christy, right? And I think I'm a pretty mindful person, very compassionate. But we're in the car in a big SUV in Vermont, driving down the road. Do you remember this story? And there's this little old man. Well, he was rather tall, in fact, but a man carrying 2 or 3 grocery bags, walking down a winding river road through, the foliage and beauty of Vermont. And I say, oh, that poor man walking all those miles with all those bags of groceries. How sad. And do you remember what you said?
I do.
What did you say?
I said, you don't know, that could be the best part of his day. You don't know what he's walking away from or walking towards. So maybe it's a good.
Yep. And I will admit there was a part of me that was a little, I don't want to say ashamed, but just like, oh, I hadn't really considered that because I was viewing it from my lens of what works for me and what feels right to me. Have you always been able to keep that kind of perspective? Because that could really be perceived as pretty highly evolved, which I think you are. But how does one come to step back and see things for what they are and what they also could be?
I think part of my initial disposition just I want to see the possibility. I have a creative mind. I was blessed with that, and so it's always wandering. It's about the beauty in this and the joy in that, and I like to share that with others. But there's been a journey. There's definitely through friendships, through inspirational people that I have known, in looking really through the lens of different coaches, through different courses, through different books, that I think that it's innate, but I also think that it's something that I enjoy to explore and share,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore I have looked to be able to communicate with myself and others more effectively what the possibilities in life are.
Which is incredible because I remember when we first met, 15 some odd years ago, you were telling me how you were taking these classes in California and I'm like, what? Like it was so kind of ahead of that self-development curve that we're seeing today. Um, how did you find those classes and can you tell us a little bit about them in
Sure,
general?
sure.
Because you've taken a lot.
I did. um, Lifelong learner. Uh, so different, I mean, different levels.
Mhm.
You know, I knew that there were feelings that seemed to be unresolved, whether it be, something I held on to from my childhood, a disagreement
Mhm.
with parents, not knowing how to deal with conflict with a friend or acquaintance.
Mhm.
And so there was one class opportunity that came to me, and it was like, here, just stop in. It was a friend of mine. He said, hey, I've done this. Come do it with me. I'm like, sure, why not? And that was an instrumental building block in the beginning,
Mhm.
basically saying there's a difference between what happens and the story that we make up about it. Uh,
Okay, tell us about that.
well, there's a fact about, um, so what happened was my car got hit. There's a dent in my car. That's
Mhm.
the story that I make up around it. Could be, oh, my luck is so bad. Of course,
Right.
this happened to me. All the bad things happened to me, and I'm never going to be able to afford to get this fixed. Blah 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 blah.
Mhm. Right.
This,
And the story goes on and on and on. And that
yeah,
carries into the next encounter that we have. And then, and it's the manifestation of negativity, right?
correct. Or I can choose to say, like this happened the other day. Similar experience. I my tire blows on the side of the road.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. So I pull over and I am pulling over in front of this truck under this overpass. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little sketched out because there's a truck going nowhere. And as I pull up beside, it's a sheriff. So,
Awesome.
oh, well, that actually makes this whole tire thing a little bit easier. So, it was him. So then we go to the back of the car. He's like, all right, let's get your spare out. Well, haha, we bought my car used. And guess what? There's no
No
spare,
spare.
Jack, any of those things.
Right.
So I was like, all right, well, I am super sheriff's here and he probably has the tools. And guess what? There's a tire shop a quarter mile down the road.
I love it.
So I'm seeing this as this is the choice in my perspective of thank goodness this happened where I live. Thank goodness
Hmm.
there's people around me that can help. Thank goodness there's
Yep.
a place right down the road.
Yep.
Because this could have been on a dark road by myself or with my kids.
Right.
My phone wouldn't work. I mean, this could have been a much worse situation. So I'm appreciative of the situation that I'm in. But I have to choose that perspective because it could be,
Correct.
oh,
Because your tire is still flat
my
and you
tire's
still
still,
have to deal with this and you're still not where you want to be.
I still,
But the
yeah,
reality is,
fix it and get other
yeah.
involved and then follow through with finding another tire and getting all the tools. So yeah.
Right. And while it's one thing to have it always could be worse mentality and just kind of be living on that edge, but there's a balance there of, yeah, this kind of sucks right now,
Yeah.
but it could be worse. So do I lean towards the part that's worse or the part that just kind of sucks? And how do I manage those conditions within? And I'm grateful that you were okay, but it's wonderful to have that perspective and to be able to tie that into the other parts of your life. So if this perspective piece is a divine gift of yours, which it is, and you use creativity to share that and you use people to share that, how have you used these gifts in your entrepreneurial spirit? Because that is a big part of you. It's not something that you know, billboard boast about, but knowing you, I understand the role that entrepreneurship has played really your whole life. And I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that because that's a big part of who you are.
It is. And that came to me early. My dad will always work for himself and my mom
Mm-hmm.
was a realtor and a real self-starter. So
Mm-hmm.
I had good examples. But, even in college, the bar restaurant that I worked at, I quickly realized, okay, well, I would be a good candidate for a manager here because I can
Mm-hmm.
help with these people and I can help with doing this. And then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I was out of college, I started working in my field of graphic design, and it was a small company with a couple of people in there. And then it was like, oh, well, I can help you do this. And, oh, well, you don't really have anybody to do your books. I mean, I could learn how to do that. I'm sure it's not that
Mm-hmm.
hard. Just wanting to help and wanting to improve the situation for whatever business or
Right.
situation I'm a part of. And then it gets to the point where either I'm a manager or, hey, let's figure out how we can take this further.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I decided, hey, I'm going to go out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I did freelance graphic design for years.
Yep.
I enjoyed it. I enjoy interacting with people, but
And you're really damn good at it. Let's just put that out there. So
um,
there's that.
but I do like working with someone, with whether it's a team of people or another partner.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I really selfishly get from being able to bounce the ideas
Yeah.
back off of someone
Yeah.
to say, what about this? Ooh, what about this? What about
Mm-hmm.
this? And I could do that
Yep.
with myself, but then it gets like a weird conversation in some head. So
Well, but it's with anything. Yeah, if you're only having a conversation with yourself and it's only the perspective from your experience, you limit all the other opportunities out there, right? So I know for me in my business, right, I coach individuals and groups, and that sounds like something I could do in a vacuum, but I talk with you every week about the work I do and the things I'm doing and the life I'm living and the things I'm going through because I need perspective, right?
yeah.
And it's yeah, even the coach needs a coach. Everybody needs somebody to welcome into the vacuum and say, I'm living here. What do I do with it, about it, etc. Um, and I really appreciate that about you because I rely on you for that. um, but so how have you, through your entrepreneurial journey, where are you now with that? Because you've mentioned it's about having people on the journey with you. It's about serving with and for people. It's about creating an experience that in your viewing is the best it possibly could be. And if it's not, let's talk about it and figure out why. How does that translate to the life you're living and building today?
So there are a couple ways. I am in a new business venture with a catering market, lunch counter fun place that's
Mm-hmm.
locally here in Wilmington. It's
Super fun.
staple for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got fortunate enough to walk into it a couple years ago, and recently
Right.
we partnered in, and that gives me so many different directions to figure out, how do we promote this business, how do we make the customer experience better, how do we
Mm-hmm.
get this out further into the world. So that's been a really fun piece. And then I am working on my second booklet with Wanda. She
Mm-hmm.
is another um, amazing person that is changing lives through her coaching.
She
And
is. She's also my coach, full disclosure.
yes, I know her from Kayla. We share her happy and talk
We're
wonderfully about
lucky.
everybody else in her world.
Yes.
Really,
She is amazing. And for excuse me, perspective, Wanda was introduced to me as an energy coach, right? And I was like, what in the world is that? But what she does, much in the way that many coaches do, is she listens and she bounces and reflects. But she has this really incredible ability to channel out of you what you're trying to say and how to bring your gift further to light. I am learning everything I can from her, by the way, friends, but she is a master. There is no doubt about it. So what fun projects are you two working on with this booklet? How do you
well,
bring it to life?
through the first day she met me, she was like, "We're going to do something together. I just feel it."
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. I
through,
remember that day.
yes, thank you for that day.
You're welcome.
Just through our talking, we were like, I think that there are things that we need to share with the world. We
Mm-hmm.
line up with our conversations and our thoughts and how we want to put it out there. So we a few months ago, published this first booklet. It's called Dagger Words. And essentially it's
It's
just,
available on Amazon.
it
Just
is,
saying.
or the templeofthespirit.org, which is our
Mhm.
website. But
Which
Dagger,
is a great name, by the way.
thanks. Well, we are a temple of our spirit, so
Mhm.
it fits. The, the book just talks about how, you know, we all carry um, we all carry emotions that and conversations and experiences with us,
Mhm.
good, bad, ugly, beautiful, whatever.
Right.
As we deal with them, it comes to light in different ways. So
Mhm.
dagger words is basically talking about certain forms of speech, certain words that trigger you,
Right.
whether it be from an unconscious situation as a child or as just a conscious adult. Like there's something
Mhm.
my boss says to me that every time they say it, it just it like stabs me.
Gets under my,
And
yeah.
so we discussed those words and how you can be someone who is throwing daggers because you are saying, well, you should do this and you should do that.
Mhm.
And realizing when you're in that part of the situation, or when you are
Right.
taking on one, like, you haven't done that yet, you haven't done that yet. And it's like bogging you down and you're not sleeping,
Mhm.
and being able to figure out your triggers and start to hear them differently, work through them differently, know when you are projecting them onto other people.
Mhm.
That's a quick read, and it's
Mhm.
really for
It's really good.
to start the thought process.
Mhm.
And we are working on our second booklet now, talking about kind of the emotional roller coaster that the COVID experience has been,
Mm.
how that has changed
That's a big one.
communication.
Yeah, that's a big one. Um, what have you found? Do you have any teasers for us? Any tips to transcend some of the complications of COVID communication?
Um, I think that people have locked themselves down. Um,
Hmm.
you know, it happened physically and then it happened emotionally. And so being able to recognize the walls that we put up, um, you know, I use the
Hmm.
example that, like, I used to be such a hugger. And now I don't, like, when I see someone I haven't seen in a while, I'm like, oh, do
Do I hug
I,
them? Are we close enough for that?
I if I'm not close enough to them to verbalize that, then it
Hmm.
becomes a piece that I hold on to. And then it's
Right.
like our conversation starts off weird. And then, you know, it just creates this cause and effect. So
Hmm.
keeping, like, remember that communication is the key. Like, that is the best thing I can
Right.
say. I walk up to someone and I don't know whether to hug them. Oh my gosh, this is weird. Say it out loud. Can I hug you? Can I not?
Hmm.
Are you okay with that? Like, where are you? Are you okay? Am
Right.
I and
Can we be weird about this for a minute? Because yes, I feel you with that hugging thing. And it's so true with everything. And it's not just because of COVID, but also because we didn't previously know how to have those conversations. There were so many assumptions about, well, you hug the uncle, you hug the person, you give them your space and your time. And then when we had COVID, land in our laps, our space and time became a very different space. And it is weird to kind of reintegrate those two things. Um, how do you find that writing these ideas down goes for you? Because I know I struggle with these really big intangible concepts, right? Like communication. Yes, you can measure it and put analysis behind it, but how does the process go to get the idea to the paper?
um, so I find that Wanda and I are a really good team because she she has these different concepts that she'll bring up, and then we'll kind of discuss them, and then I love to write. Like, writing is,
Mm-hmm.
I do really enjoy. I like to figure out the words that describe something. Much like in graphics, I'm taking a picture and turning your ideas into a picture that's going to represent you.
Mm-hmm.
I like extrapolating the words from our conversations and the ideas, and then being able to form a sentence where people are like, "Oh, that's what you."
Oh, I get that.
There's some pretty deep topics that we
Mm-hmm.
kind of get into, and some of it takes a decent amount of thought and conversation to figure out that's the right word. Because if we say it this way, then people are gonna be like, what the heck are you talking about? So it's fun to find the words and
Right.
how the sentences flow once we get the ideas rolling.
That's wonderful. And I think one thing to note about you and your personality is I talk a lot with my clients about stimulus and response, and then the little pause in between where you get to decide, how can I influence the outcome to be more in line with who I am and what's important to me? And one thing I truly respect about you, and I'm a very quick, I answer, I move, I go, and I have learned from you to really embrace that pause, because I watch you stop and think, and I can almost hear the questions. Do I like this? Do I want to do it? Do I have the time and the resources to go? Da 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 da, right? Is that like, how do you do that? Because that is a beautiful part of your personality. And I also want to comment, I think it could often be mistaken for reticence or quiet versus discernment and active participation, if that makes sense.
Well, I have learned about myself over time. I want to say what I want to say the way I want, and I'm not always that quick. So sometimes it takes time to be like, I want to give you my all, and wealth of information that I have stored from different places and perspective and people, want to share that. So I find that sometimes if I do the immediate speak, which in today's society, we want that instant gratification.
We value that, right? Like the person with the answer, the person that knows what to do, the person who can quick things and take charge gets redeemed and rewarded. And I watch you and I honor that, and I celebrate the way you stop and you think and say, well, is this good for the group? And is that the right perspective? And have I considered that to bring you into a safer place for you? Has it always been that way? Have you always had the perspective to pause?
No.
Like, oh, darn. I have this image of you just like stepping on the planet and being all.
Yes. No.
I'm just kidding. No, I know you've done the work. Truly. You really have done the work. And I would love to be able to pass a gem to everyone listening of why it's so important to pause, or what that perspective does that moment.
Well, I think that I've learned, and I'm still learning, to take the pause, because when I say something, and I know you mentioned that my marketing brain tells me this, but when you have someone's undivided attention in that moment, and they're wanting to talk to you about the thing that you want to talk to them about, of course you can make other moments, but that's the moment that you have them. And if I don't take pause and I say something that then I'm like, oh, it's not what I wanted to say. Like, then I'm like, I'm going to have to go back over. But if I can just take a second, because I know that I've probably thought about this conversation in my head, whether it's, laying in bed or in the morning, or actually being able to have time to meditate in the beginning of the day. And if I just take that moment and think, okay, go through what is the point of what I want to say? How do I want to be able to move forward with what I'm going to say? If I can just encapsulate that moment for just a second and think through before I say it, I feel a lot more solid in what I am offering to that person.
And I think that's great, because there's a book called Fierce Conversations by Susan Collins, who says that the conversation is the relationship, meaning if we have to pour into it truth and goodness if we want truth and goodness to live there. And I think that's a great segue into one of the other parts of how you conduct yourself on a more personal level that I really, really value, because I've been the recipient of it several times. But the way you host fierce conversations, and by that I don't mean angry, aggressive, attacking. I mean clear, I mean focused, I mean built on passion. One in particular, my son, for those listening, if anyone doesn't know, my son was born with a cleft lip and palate. It was a very dark time for me, and it was very confusing, and I didn't have clear perspective, and I didn't have all my gears turning in the right orientation. But what I did have was I had a friend. And over time, I found myself saying, oh, my child with special needs and my child with special needs. And it was almost like I was enjoying that suffering, right? And here comes Christy, and I won't make you repeat the whole conversation, but she gets on the phone with me and she said, I'd like to talk to you about something. My heart starts going immediately. I'm like, uh-oh, like kind of getting called to the principal's office feeling. But Christy, what you did was said, please stop. And those were not the words exactly, but please stop saying that. Please stop calling this beautiful, perfect little child who does have some work to be done for his life to be comfy, but please stop manifesting that and creating your own suffering. And I can tell you right now, I sat there and I was like, who is she to do? Oh, yeah, she's the person with the perspective. She's the person that I know, love, and trust. Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Okay, like I get a little shaky even thinking about having a conversation like that with a friend, because that's a boundary, that's a thing that we don't always do. Like, we don't know if we hug. Do we know if we call people out? How in the world do you do that?
Well, I don't just do it with everyone.
Right. No, you don't go around looking at people and imparting judgment. It's based on a lot of evaluation and data, I'm sure. But it takes a lot of courage.
Well, you are a safe space for me, and I love you. So when I see someone that I feel strongly for and know that a different perspective might help right here, because I saw the anguish and the confusion.
I can feel it now. I remember.
And I feel like we label a lot, and
Yes.
it's conscious, it's unconscious. It helps some people, it doesn't help others. But in this moment of where you were at that time, I knew that you were going to be a great mother to this beautiful kid, and I didn't want you to suffer through it, and I didn't want him to feel your suffering because of what was just a special thing.
Yep. And it's so true, because I thought I was a person that lived with perspective and awareness, and what I've come to learn over time is that I have had great perspective in an outward way, but my inward way, again, it's just my perspective and my voice and my narrative. And there's a part of me that was like, if I'm not suffering something, and I can't even articulate that in the short time we have today, but having someone in my space where we had an agreement of, I love you, I want the best for you, I'll work hard for you, because we had talked about that. We've been very open, but that was a big point for me. And it has been, I think, a pivotal piece in becoming a coach today, because I had to do the work. I had to shift, because it was about not just my soul, but my son's soul and every person that he would move forward and encounter. And it's been so important. And I think it speaks so much to you and the quality that you apply to friendship. Let's talk about friendship for just a few minutes, because it's my favorite part of you, because it's the part I enjoy all the time. Yes, we talk every week. We made a choice for that in an accountability type way, but also in an I love you and value you kind of way. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Because I might gush and start crying.
I do, but we're emotional.
We'll go for it.
I mean, when I had you here in physicality, when you lived in the same place that I did,
right.
I was inspired when I was with you, and we did projects and we did exercise, and we did things with our kids.
Thank God for Greenville Loop Road, or Greenville Loop, or Greenfield Lake, sorry.
But
the laps.
When I knew that you were leaving because there was a bigger calling in your life, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
No, we can't do that.
We're not gonna lose this. I need to make sure that this is, and I have a lot of friends that I might talk to a couple of times a year, and I value their friends. I value those.
Absolutely. And there's an agreement there, and there's an understanding.
I'm not going to get mad at you if you don't call me every week, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to get mad at me if I don't call you every week. But
Right.
the kind of participation in our friendship that we both had, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't willing to not have once or twice a year. I don't want to just
Ditto, babe.
family and
Mm-hmm.
we talk for an hour and
Right.
that's it.
Right.
In our agreement, it was, hey, we're going to talk more often. And
Mm-hmm.
when we deviate from that, it had to become scheduled.
Yes.
Life is hectic.
We did. We had to put it on. And it's and I'll tell you, like in the work I do with my clients, we make lists, right? What are the most important things for you in your life? And then what are you doing with your time and your resources and your energy, right? And if they don't line up, how do we close the gap? And for frame of reference, when we lived in Wilmington and we're making our list of stay in Wilmington or move to New Jersey, my stay list, well, my go list was pretty hearty. We had a lot of reasons to come here, and all family, all wonderful. But the top of my list was Braden's surgeon, because that was a really big deal. The second thing on my list was Christy. I did not want to leave Christy, right? So we had an obstacle. We had something thrown at us. We had a flat tire, right? And we could either say, well, that sucks, or we could go further down the spiral. But we chose to do something about it. And now we put our time and our energy and our resources towards this. And I know my life has been exponentially greater because of that. I remember probably 3 or 4 years ago, driving home from work, having a conversation with you where we're talking very openly about, I feel unfulfilled. I don't know what to do. My kids are getting older. I don't know where my spirit and my passion is. And I'll never forget that drive, because I was like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I'm not alone in this. Maybe I can say it out loud, and maybe I can do something about it. And I think it was 6 or 8 months later that I started my coaching business. And I just cannot thank you enough for the work that you do for you, on you, to your heart, to your soul, to your body, to be the best version of yourself. Because I believe when we do that, we greatly influence people beyond our even awareness. You use the slogan, make it a great day. That became a mantra in my classroom, and my kids to this day still use it as a positive thing. And so the work that you do goes well beyond what you can see. And I just want to say thank you for the way that you show up and the way that you serve and the way that you bring people joy, because I need more of it in my life. I want to keep my bucket full so I can keep spreading it out to the world. Um, so if you had one parting thing to say, whether it's to your 15-year-old self, to your 15-year-old kid, or to your 55-year-old self, what advice would you give today?
Oh, I would say that hmm, there's like a million memes going through my head right now.
Find joy.
Yes. Um, um, you know, um, cherish the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be
Yes.
afraid to talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
especially the safe people,
Yes.
because I don't think that. Um, I think that I have been very blessed with the number of wonderful people in my life, and whether
Mm-hmm.
that is my perspective or whatever is
Mm-hmm.
that.
Well, you work for it too. You work for that as well.
I do. Even if there are a couple of people that cross your path in your life
Mm-hmm.
that, man, you just feel like they're your person. They they understand you. Like, keep them. Talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose touch with them. Let them know how much you love them, because that's
Mm-hmm.
important.
It's so important. Well, well, we take a minute and
All,
regroup ourselves.
all emotional. Ooh.
I I thank you very much for the vulnerability, because we don't have enough of it. And I think about that conversation. If I didn't have the courage and a safe enough place to say I'm not happy,
Mm-hmm.
I'd still be there, right?
Yeah.
So the takeaway for today, friends, whether you're a 15-year-old, you're parenting a 15-year-old, or you're any age beyond, um, it's okay to challenge your perspective. and it's best when you have people to do it with, because I don't want people to go like, oh, I have to shift perspective and now I'm going to freak out and lose control over what I believe to be true. But it's okay to brainstorm and toss ideas out and be creative and say, what would it look like if I moved this couch over here? Or what would it look like if I moved this career over there? I know that it's been friendships, really, truly friendships, that have given me so much perspective on that. And I'm so thankful you showed up today to share yours with all of us. So for those who are still hanging out with us, check out templeofthespirit.com, right?
Yes, it's templeofspirit.org.
Templeofspirit.org. And see the kind of work that she's doing. Look at dagger words. Think about the words that set you off. I know I get set off by the word should. Everyone, when someone's like, you should, I go, woof, right? And then I want a quick answer. Quick. If I should have the answer. So that's what I think of when I hear dagger words. But anyway, thank you all for joining us today. Christy, go be so fabulous. The world can't stand it. And we will catch you all next time on And All the Things. Everyone make it a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.